Welcome to Friendly Math 101. Today our lesson is on how to find the greatest common factor in an expression. A lot of students struggle with this concept because they're pretty weak with their multiplication tables, but this is a quick and easy way to find the greatest common factor. So looking at this trinomial, most students can identify that a factor of these three terms is 2. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through each individual term and divide each term by 2. This isn't the greatest common factor, but it is a factor. Whatever we divide out, we're going to put on the outside of the parentheses. So we're undoing the distribution. And now we're going to divide each term. So we're left with 12x squared, negative 18x divided by 2 is negative 9x, and then 42 divided by 2 is positive 21. So now looking at these three terms, I could identify that 3 can go into all three terms. So again, not the greatest common factor, but a common factor. So I'm going to divide out every term by 3, and whatever I divide out, I have to put on the outside. So now on the outside, I'm going to have 3 times 2, and on the inside, I'm going to divide it out, so I have 4x squared, negative 3x, and then positive 7. Once I look at my three terms and determine that the only factor of the three terms is 1, I know that I'm done, and I have found my greatest common factor. So we're going to multiply the numbers we have on the outside, which is 6, and then the inside stays the same, and so the greatest common factor out of this expression is 6. Let's look at another example. So 120, 30, and 60, there are a lot of factors that go into these numbers. But we're just going to start with the basics. Let's just say that someone can recognize 2 goes into each term. So let's divide every term by 2 because they're all even numbers. The 2 goes on the outside, and now we're going to divide it out. We're left with 60x squared plus 15x plus 30. And now looking at the three terms, I can tell that 3 can go into each of these terms. So again, not the greatest common factor, but a common factor. Whatever we divide out, we're going to multiply on the outside. And then now we're left with, this should say 20x squared. And then 5x, and this becomes 10. Now looking at 20, 5, and 10, I know that 5 can divide into each of these terms evenly. So now on the outside, we have 5 times 3 times 2, and on the inside, we're going to divide it out. We're left with 4x squared plus 1x plus 2. And looking at the terms I have on the inside, the only common factor is now 1. And so we know that we found our greatest common factor. We're going to multiply 5 times 3 times 2, and that would be 30 times 4x squared plus 1x plus 2. So the greatest common factor for this expression would be 30. Let's take a look at one more example. So looking at this expression, again, they're all even numbers, so I know that 2 can go into all of them. And if you start with a different factor, it's okay. We'll get the same answer in the end anyway. So when we divide out 2, we could now look at these three terms, and I could tell, again, they're all even still, so I'm going to divide again by 2. So divide each term by 2, that means another 2 goes on the outside. And now we have 9x squared minus 7x. We're dividing these out, minus 11. And now looking at the remaining terms, I could tell that the only common factor is 1. So I know that we have found our greatest common factor. It's 2 times 2, which is 4. And then I'm just going to copy down this trinomial. Our GCF is 4 for this expression. That concludes our lesson on how to find the greatest common factor. If you have any questions, feel free to leave your questions in the comment section below. And for more math tutorials, subscribe to our channel, Friendly Math 101.